Proposed insurance changes for items. Now, CIG has, they go to events, and there was this Con 42 thing in Germany, and they were talking a bit about item insurance and the idea of certain items, certain ship items, weapons, whatever, are going to be removed from the store and made as lootable only. Now, the obvious reason for this, of course, is items are going to be removable from a ship with a tractor beam so that you can salvage them after combat. The driver behind this, of course, is the idea that, this feature is coming into the game. We want to promote this feature. We want people to really engage with it, and we want people to go out there and start removing items. It solves a few interesting problems as well in the case of trying to get people to crew your ship. If you have a ship like a reclaimer, of course, like this, the Caterpillar, and you want people to go and man the turrets, hey, we take this out into combat, we do some missions, we pull some guns off ships, we sell them at the store, we make a whole bunch more money. It's difficult enough if you were to try and use something like a Caterpillar and you were trying to say, hey, let's go out and, make some money doing this. Up till now, a lot of that income has been next to non-existent. But now, potentially, depending on how you use it and what you use it for, this could justify people going, hey, you know what? No, I'll come and work on your ship because we can carry away a whole bunch of weapons or items or whatnot, and that will amplify the value of our playtime in the game. So you take that as a given, you go, okay, well, that sounds kind of like a good idea. All right, cool. But there is kind of another side to this, and this is kind of one of these things that it's the mistake that CIG seemingly continuously makes, which is we introduce a mechanic, we think about the bonuses, we don't think about the negatives, and we forget to implement the counterbalance to it. So for instance, you're going out there and you're now saying, hey, these items are really good for ships. We're going to be differentiating items, probably increasing, making the range of performance even greater, making these things more desirable, obviously. But at the same time, we're not going to create a system that allows players to sell to each other, even when they're offline. Let's say like a basic auction house format, buy orders, sell orders, that sort of thing, which makes it much more difficult to come across these actual components. You have to go out and seek them out. And this is where things get kind of tough, because you want people to use these components and you're going to make these components desirable, but now you're making people go out and grind for these components, to go out and search and hunt for these components. And they're going to have to equip multiple ships, because there's going to be other people on the crew of that ship who are going to be like, oh, I want these weapons. Oh, I want those weapons. And I need them for this gameplay, the PvP gameplay, or I need them for my mining ship, or I need them for my cargo ship, whatever these items are that you need, you're not, in fact, the activity that you're doing to get these items is not the activity that you really want to be doing. In many cases, this is, if you're a PvPer, you don't want to do PvE. If you're PvE, maybe you want to be doing other missions over here, but now you have to go and add this extra layer to, kind of get the things that you need, or that you feel that you need to get the job done that you want to do. By creating even a very basic tier 0 implementation of an auction house with next to no UI, it could be almost entirely text-based, it would be fine. In fact, most auction houses really kind of work that way. By having something like that, you allow the people who want to go out and get the items and get the loot to profit. You allow the players to simply go and do the other players to simply go and do the activities that they want to do, make money at it, doing it, engaging with Star Citizen basically how they want to engage with Star Citizen, and then simply taking the money that they make and buying the items that they want. without having to worry about, oh, my ship got blown up and now all my items are destroyed, and before I can go back and re-engage with the gameplay that I want to engage with, I have to go and I have to grind out these items again. And this is kind of a revisitation of why ship items were added to ship insurance in the first place, right? The idea that these items are no longer going to be insured on your ship, that's fine, that's okay, but you have to remember that the reason why we added that in the first place is because people just stopped largely putting items on their ships because they weren't engaging with the system, because the system was kind of a hassle. And the problem is that any game bug, boom, your ship was gone, your items were gone. So, why are you doing this? Why are you spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of UEC on ship components when any little game bug could entirely wipe that out? And, newsflash, still can. Now, to go along with this, we also need a trade window, because let's say multiple players are together on a ship, you're going out, you're blowing up other ships, you're stealing the items, you say, oh, you know what, you can take those Omniskis, you can take those Revenants, whatever. You need a way to just kind of open up a trade window and trade that item into another player's inventory, so you're not basically putting all the items with one player and saying, I'm going to auction all this off and pay you guys out later. You need a way to just be able to deal those items out to people so that they can sell them on their own, and so they're not sitting there constantly waiting to see if you've sold them or trying to chase you down to remind you to pay them off. The truth of it is it's a good idea. It's an interesting idea if it comes with a broader gulf of performance variation in the items between lootable and store-bought items. Maybe even an opportunity to visit the idea of quality levels of items. This is a basic quality, this is an epic quality, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, to bring in a system like this, you just can't bring in that first piece. You have to bring in the pieces that go with it. Otherwise, it trains people to kind of go, instead of saying, hey, here's my dream build, most players are just going to go out and say, if I get shot down by another player, then I'm just handing this person all these items that I worked so hard for, and they're just going to walk away with my gear. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to encourage that behavior, because that's not what I'm about. And you know what? Instead, I'm just going to go for budget builds. Functional, but it does the job, but nothing too flashy, and I'm just not going to equip these items. People will hoard them and end up price gouging other players for them. But if you have a marketplace for this stuff built into the game, people have to compete with one another to sell items, and so prices come down. I believe there's a history to this. You have to make sure that there's a proper kind of counterbalance to the idea of losing these items, because there's nothing worse than buying a cool thing and then not using it. You want people to buy it and use it. You don't want it to just sit there dead and just not doing what it was supposed to do. There really is nothing worse than kind of putting all this stuff in the game and then just having it exist as wasted potential, right? One of the most just diabolically annoying things about CIG is that they introduce all these points of friction, but they never make any of the connections to allow players to avoid that. Hey, I want to try projectile weapons on my ship. This is a great thing. This could be fun. This could be interesting. However, we don't allow players to rearm the ships in space. You have to go to a station to rearm and reload. Now, we have a ship, the Vulcan, which can reload the weapons of other ships, but we haven't really put the Vulcan in the game, and we haven't really created... We have the basic facility for players to create missions for other players, but we really haven't gone all that far into it. Maybe we want to try those projectile weapons as well, but we've put them all on this station. You have to go to this station to buy them. whereas the player operates out of, let's say, Grim Hex or Ambitious Dream or whatever, Crusader L3 or whatever station that they operate out of. That's their station, that's where they like to be. We don't let players create a buy order on that station that, this is the item's price at the store. I'm willing to pay this plus this, so that I can go out and I can do the gameplay that I want to do and just keep doing it. And someone else who wants to run the cargo is going to buy those weapons, deal with all the hassle of getting them to the location, and they're going to take payment from me for the items along with whatever bonus that I'm offering, because I don't want to go and get them myself. We have that point of friction where the items are available only in limited places, but we don't really facilitate the connections to allow players to kind of handle this on their own. Instead, all we do is we just say we keep introducing the hassle, but we don't introduce the shortcut around the hassle, which is connecting players together financially and facilitating those connections in those businesses. We're very good at introducing, these different types of gameplay, but at the same time we try to force every player to engage with it, rather than saying, here, for the players who want to engage with it, here you go. For the players that don't, here's a way to buy your way out of that situation. It's like the engineering system in Elite. It's a cool system, but it's grindy as hell. So for the people who enjoy grinding engineering materials, and I'm sure there are some out there, because they don't really have an official way to just sell those items to other players, it ends up becoming kind of a nightmare. Like, the engineering system is so grindy that you kind of start to feel guilty and avoid playing the game because you don't really want to engage with that, because you don't want to do the grind. You want to have the ship geared up and you want to go out and have fun. But because we've never facilitated that connection, players, it ends up being this wasted potential. And unfortunately, if you make certain guns and certain missile racks and whatnot, if you make all these things loot only, but you don't facilitate players being able to move these things in a safe and secure way in between each other for obvious financial gain, then all you really do is you create more points of friction between players and the game. You create more situations where the players have to kind of avoid that, rather than saying, let's say players want to get together and they want to go out on a weapon or a shield or whatever hunting expedition against NPCs because that's what they enjoy. But now you kind of make it so that everyone has to do that in order to equip the items that they want on a ship, which in the end, most players will just kind of avoid, right? They'll just kind of go, oh, well, I'll just go with a budget build. There's a lot of these points of friction in Star Citizen, but they shouldn't be seen as just hassles that you're putting players through. They should be seen as opportunities to open up new avenues of gameplay, not for everyone, but for the people who are interested in it, and allow them to profit by allowing them to sell those items to the people who don't want to engage with that. So it depends on what CIG brings out with it. Because if they just introduce the hassle, then it's going to be a negative. If they introduce the hassle with the balance and with the interaction, then it could be a great thing. It could be absolutely a fantastic thing. But it's all down to implementation. And unfortunately, CIG's track record in this area is not that great. So I hope that when, CIG was talking about this at this Con 42, that this was just a very, low level. This is what we want to do with items, and that's all I'm really talking about right now is items. But hopefully, it's going to come with a suite of changes that basically, instead of creating this point of friction for the players, it's an opportunity for everyone, basically.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.